Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome on into the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. We are here with a new challenge today. This is going to be challenge 3, which I'm really excited to get into. I'm Sam Peterson. I'm going to be hosting the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenges for the next 2 weeks. Well, this week and next week. And just a heads up that it's 2 weeks long of challenges, 9 challenges in total. And then we're going to have 2 weeks of replays. So if you're watching this and it says Creative Encore down in the title below, that means this is a replay. And the hope there is just that you get a little bit more extra time to work on it. So I'm going to jump in and show you how to join these daily creative challenges. If you have not already, you just go to the landing page here at behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. You'll see this landing page with the big blue button at the top. You can click that to register for the challenges. And if you scroll down, you'll see all the challenges below. So if you're watching this as a replay, like I mentioned, you'll see that all of these will already be revealed, but we are on day 3 currently. And today's challenge is smoking text effects. Create a smoking text effect by using masking, type tools, and compositing techniques. So we're going to create this text that looks like it's created out of smoke with some fun little methods that I'm going to show you all. Also, before I greet everyone in the chat, I just want to mention that we also have a Discord. So if you want to share your challenges, if you want to get feedback, give feedback, basically just interact and share your art with the community Discord is the place to do that. And if you go to the landing page, you'll actually see, if you scroll down, a place where you can join the Discord, and Wade is actually putting those in the chat as well, so you can click those. But if you go to the feedback section, you'll see this little category and it says challenge. That's where you can share your designs. Lots of awesome designs here. We got the super speed challenge. We got the lighting effects. So really cool things here. This is great. The lighting in here is spot on. Fits perfectly. So really great work, everyone. I've been going through these, giving feedback. We also have Ted, who's a mentor, giving feedback. So definitely feel free to post and share your art. And then we also have sections like ask a question. So if you have any questions with technical aspects or things you're kind of stuck on, we have community members and mentors there who can try to help you out the best that they can. Hello everyone, welcome on in, by the way. I see General Kenobi, Murray, good to see you. Wade, Monica, we got Ted, Christelle, Andreas. I know we got the whole gang here. Marcia and RB, good to see you. Gerard, hello, Jennifer, Frank, Jeffrey, everybody. I don't want to miss it, anyone. Rick, what's going on, everybody? And a little quick reminder, if you are watching over on YouTube, come on over to the Behance chat. That's where I'm going to be able to see you. If you're wondering who I'm greeting, I'm checking it out on the Behance chat, so I'll be able to see your questions and comments there. Umacorn, hello. Robert, Jan, welcome on in, everybody. What else? I think that's it. I think I got all my little reminders out of the way. So we're going to jump into Photoshop now, the best part. And what I'm doing here is I'm starting off with a simple document that's a 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution is 300. So that's what I'm working with today. You can also jump down below. You'll see the starter file in the description. If you download the starter file, you'll get this too. But this one's pretty simple. There's not a whole lot of what is the word? Stock images, assets that I'm using. I will actually be using these two. I believe they are included in the starter file. I know at least this one is. I'm not 100% sure if this one is. I'm spacing on that. But anyway, let's get started. It's just a simple blank document. The background is black, and I'm going to go ahead and select T for the text tool over here on the left-hand side, and or the type tool. And I have this this font called, I don't even know how to say that, Ailerons, Ailerons, AILERONS. I don't remember if I downloaded that or if it's default, but just a heads up if you're wondering what I'm using. And I'm just gonna type in some spooky message like, beware. So you guys can do whatever text you want here, but I feel like beware is pretty spooky, and it's got a good amount of letters, not too many, so it'll be a good one to deal with, I think. So I'm just gonna position it where I want and press enter to confirm that scaling and sizing, which I was doing with the move tool, if you're wondering. You get these little handles that you can grab and scale. And I think that looks pretty good. So going to confirm it there. And then what I want to do from here is actually want to make this a smart object. I'm going to right click that layer, that beware layer, and do convert to smart object, because we're going to do some things to it. And this way I can work non-destructively and not have to worry about ruining it. Tanya, welcome on in. Mercurial, good to see you. Hey, everybody. Anki, good to see you as well. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to blur it. So we got a smart object, and now I'm going to go to filter. And previously we played around with motion blur on the super speed challenge, but now I'm going to use the one that I use 90% of the time, which is Gaussian blur. And you can kind of play around with the radius, the amount of blur, but I'm going to do this pretty low. I'm going to try like 7. You can click the preview on and off to see. I was like A-Bing it, and that looks pretty good to me. We'll do 7. I might also lower the opacity a little bit because we're going to layer a different one on here. That actually looks pretty good. That's 80. So you'll see we have a smart filter mask here, and that's so you can mask out the blur if you want to, or whatever smart filters you have on there. But I'm going to actually just click the layer itself and click this little rectangular button at the bottom. You'll see down here, and that's going to be creating a layer mask. So now we have a mask for our actual entire layer. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to select black. Black conceals, white reveals, and I'm going to select my brush tool with B. You want to get something that's a nice like airbrush. If you're in the default brushes for Photoshop, I believe it's just called soft round. But whenever I say airbrush, I just mean soft round brush. I think in my brush set it's labeled as airbrush because that's essentially its tool or its function. So I'm going to actually just fade out the top and bottom of the text a little bit. And if you're doing this with a mouse, I recommend just playing around with the flow. If you lower the flow down quite a bit, you can just kind of click a couple times. And the bigger your brush, the more of a gradient effect you'll have on it. So just play with the flow to get it right. You can actually get quite a bit of precision and a good look with just a mouse and, adjusting the flow to be low enough where you're not making any drastic move with one click. Beware. For a second I was like, oh no, did I do a typo? So I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this. So Control J, I'm selecting my text. I'm gonna do Control J to duplicate it and create another copy. I'm gonna hide the first layer we have, so the first beware layer, so I can just see our duplicate and be able to see what's going on with it a little bit more. I don't really want this faded layer mask because we're going to blur this quite a bit more, so I'm actually going to right click that layer mask that we have and just do disable. I can always bring it back if I want. And then I'm going to go to the Gaussian blur, double click it, because it's saved because it's a smart object, we're able to go back and edit that. And this duplicate, I'm going to set to 20 or something really high instead of 7. I think 20 is actually pretty good. So if we put the first layer back on, that's what it looks like. And both of these are at 80% opacity because they're duplicates. So now we already kind of have this like kind of spooky, soft looking text, which I think looks pretty good. The second one acts more as this glowing, ghostly image. So you can kind of see how they work with each other. I think that actually works quite well. Do you always make a layer mask? I make a layer mask anytime I just want to work non-destructively because it's text. It's not something that I could easily bring back. So if I mask out part of the text and I want it back, I would have to like paint it back in or create a new text layer, and it just would create much more of a hassle. So much easier to create a layer mask and just push it and pull it depending on how much I want it. Sometimes, like if I'm painting, I don't create layer masks because it's not like a uniform structure that I'm destroying. It's something that's changing in all different ways, so it wouldn't make sense to layer mask. So it's situational, but most of the time, yeah. In a non-drawing and painting context, I'm going to use layer masks for sure. So what do I want to do from here? We did the duplicate. And now we're going to actually create a new layer. I'm going to do Command or Control, Shift N, hotkey for new layer. You can also just go up to Layer, New. And I'm going to call this Smudge. It's just going to be a normal blending mode, but we're going to call it Smudge. And before I paint on that, I'm actually going to go back, highlight my text layers, press Control or Command G, and name this text. I like to keep everything nice and organized so I don't get confused, because I am easily confused. So this is a bit more of a painting technique. I just want to put that out there. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm confusing that with the next step. I just gave a little hint. This is not as, I mean, it helps to have a tablet for this kind of thing, but you can totally do it by just adjusting your mouse. So anyway, I'm going to go to the Smudge tool over here on the left. I have it hotkeyed to N. I don't believe it has a default hotkey. The thing I put it to N is because it's right next to B. B is brush, N is smudge, and I use those two tools in tandem for a lot of my painting techniques. So that's a personal choice. If you go to Edit, keyboard shortcuts, you can always customize them to whatever workflow makes sense for you. But you can just select it manually here. And my brush settings here are fairly important. So the strength is set to 50 right here at the top. But if you go into Window, Brush Settings, my smudge tool is just a soft round brush, the default soft round that you'll see with Photoshop. Strength is set to 50, and then scattering is checked on. Scattering is set to 10%. I will warn you, the higher you put scattering, the more it's going to kind of obliterate your edges, and the more it's going to kind of tax your computer. But scattering is set on to 10%. If you go to brush tip shape, it appears that my spacing is at 25. So, feel free to play around with those settings, but I find this works quite good for smudging. So what I want to do here is I have my new smudge layer. It's on its own layer, and I'm going to click Sample All Layers. So from here, it's actually going to sample from the text that we did, but it's not going to destroy it. It's on its own layer completely. So I'm going to kind of do this like ghostly, wispy, kind of moving upward type of effect. You can also just kind of wiggle it. I do this a lot where I just wiggle it back and forth and it just kind of softens it. Or you can just drag it over an edge if you want to soften an edge. But I just kind of want to make it look like this is wisping away. Just a little bit. This is just going to be one effect of a few. So you don't need to use all the techniques that I'm going to go over today. If you like one and you don't like the other, or if one feels like it's too hard to do with a mouse, or you just connect with one more than the other, the goal is that you can kind of play around with these different techniques and use what you like. But I think this is kind of fun. So I'm going to just make this soften up a little bit. I want to soften any edges a little. And you can put your, if you put your strength to a higher one, it's going to get a lot more intense. I like 50. It's a nice middle of the road. But if you do, this is at 74, you can get some pretty intense effects here. And obviously, the more you do it, the more intense. You can even kind of give it a little wiggle. Make those swoops look a little bit more irregular. All right, so I'm going to put this back down to 50. And then, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'll leave it there. Do a little save, a little Control S hotkey. That's always a good one to get in the habit of. So from here, I'm actually going to take my photos. Now, photos are probably going to give you the most realistic, smoky effects. Stock photos are always the way to go for that kind of stuff if you want realism. But we're going to combine some techniques and go from there. So I actually have this one. I believe this one is included in the starter file. But I'm going to just do Command or Control A, and then Command or Control C. So basically that's select all or copy. You can also go to select all. I just copy. Just my muscle memory does that now. Control V. So now we have this here. If we zoom out and press V, which is the move tool, you'll see it's much bigger. So I'm going to actually right click this, do Smart Object, convert to Smart Object, because we're going to scale this around and I don't want to lose resolution in case I want to bring it back later. Wade says, same technique can be used for making flames too. If we have time, I'm going to show you guys something. Now, some of you may have seen it before. I don't know if we will have time, but if we do, it'll be a bonus. So I'm going to bring this in, and I'm actually going to set it to screen mode. Because we're working on a black background, this is all we really need. This works fine. And I want, do you see this trail? I'm looking for interesting shapes. Do you see this little swoopy trail that my mouse is following along? I want that to like come off the B. That looks kind of neat. I think that's kind of a cool look. So I'm going to press enter, and now I'm going to mask it, that little rectangle down at the bottom. I'm going to click that, and now I have a mask. So from here, I'm going to select black because black conceals, white reveals, and I'm using my soft round brush again. That's always just a nice way to mask things out in a smooth gradient. And I'm just going to soften those edges and get rid of the parts that I don't want. I could even like soften the tops here if I want to make them look a little bit more faded. Something like that maybe. That looks pretty good. We're going to adjust this more, but I actually want to go in. I should have just duplicated this, but I'm going to do the same process. I forgot. Control A, Control C, paste it back in. I just want a different copy to mess with. Right click, Smart Object. Now, if you just Control J to duplicate the first one, that would have saved you a couple clicks, but we're going to go back in and we're going to use another one because I like to find interesting parts from organic things like this where, let me hide the first one so I can see, and this new one I'm going to set to screen like we just did. I like to find interesting parts and place them into position and then kind of mask them together. So I'm going to maybe make this decently smaller. I'm kind of seeing this like little diagonal thing. I think that looks kind of neat. I think something around there looks good. Press enter. We will mask this fella as well. Click the mask. Make sure you have black selected if you want to hide, white if you want to reveal. And I'm going to get rid of this swoop. That swoop at the top that we used for the last one, it's a very recognizable shape. It's going to look fake if we have it repeated. So I'm just going to kind of soften this area and soften the edge a bit as well, and then turn on my original layer. So now I can see where they're overlapping. It's a bit heavy right there. I'm gonna mask that out. So now I just have two different sections from the same photo, masked over each other, and I can kind of fade it wherever I want. So I can just name these if I want, smoke 1, smoke 2, whatever you feel like naming them. I'm gonna group them both. Control G, Controller Command G, and we're gonna do smoke stock. That's what we'll put. Sam and Wade are really good at the smoke. Smoke is so fun to paint. I'm a big fan. All right, we got a little bit more time here, so let's keep going. This is way too opaque, in my opinion. I'm not feeling that. So I'm gonna set the opacity down a little bit. I don't know, maybe a little bit lower. It's not too bad. 60% I think looks pretty good. So that's kind of like the before and after. Got a little bit of the smudge helping us out there for that effect. Okay, so let's create, this is the thing I teased at a little bit. Not the one that I said if we have time, but you can paint it in if you want. Speaking of painting, now this step you definitely don't need to do. It's a bit more difficult, admittedly, without a tablet. If you have a tablet and you want to do a little extra step, I say go for it. This is a method I use. I just thought I would show you guys. I thought it'd be kind of fun. So, inking brush. This is just a hard round brush with opacity jitter set to pen pressure. Now, you don't need the opacity jitter. If you are using a mouse, you can crank up your smoothing really high, maybe 70, 80%. And that'll give you a bit more control with the mouse. The opacity jitter is nice to have, but it's not mandatory. But let me just kind of show you the technique. And you can try to mimic it. and see if it works for you. But I'm just going to use white here. And essentially this gives me the freedom to not be beholden to the stock photo. But if I want to create like little wisps coming off the top, I do that. I just kind of scribble around a little bit. And then I take my smudge tool. Excuse me. Let me make sure I didn't miss any step here. Yeah, okay. So same smudge tool, but I'm having it at 50% strength and I'm unchecking. This is the key part. I'm unchecking sample all layers at the top. I no longer want to sample all the layers. I have this on its own layer. I don't want to destroy everything I touch with the smudge tool. And it's going to be a lot less intense on my system this way. So I'm going to go over with the smudge tool, just kind of rep back and forth, and you can see you can get some cool effects once it starts to smudge some areas and not others. The bigger your smudge tool and the more you go over it, the more it'll kind of like obliterate it and make it really foggy. But you can get these cool kind of smoky trails if you don't even need clean lines. I just like to kind of be organic with it. And then playing with the size of your smudge tool will allow you to get like different effects within this. So this is a fun method. I love doing this. I am a painter first and foremost, so I'm a little biased. But if anyone thinks this method's fun, I say go for it and play around with it. I'm trying to blend it with the photo, but the photos are going to give you the most realistic look. But this does allow you a little bit of freedom to kind of do what you want and create your own shapes. So I'm going to do like, maybe I'll cross my A, put a little fade thing, maybe on the tail of the E. Maybe we'll put a little, I don't know, a little shape going from one to the other. Maybe on the E, and then we'll call it there. So I'm just going to smudge these. Again, bigger brush to smudge it to make it like more foggy. Like this one at the bottom will make it really kind of foggy and barely visible. The A I want to be a little bit more visible. Like it's trailing up, fading out towards the end. And then the same thing with the E. But you can get some pretty cool effects with it. I'm going to fade this one out a bit more. I think that looks pretty neat. You know, it's just a small addition to it, really. Amazing art there, Sam. I'm going to play around with this. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. There's some good different methods you can use here to really just kind of go nuts. Let me see what else. Oh yeah, lastly, this is one of the last steps. We'll see how much time we have towards the end. But I'm going to use this stock photo because it's a very like faint kind of smoky effect. And I'm going to select my background image and put it on top of that. Control V. And you can see the smudge tool sitting on top of it. So it's kind of creating that look. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, geez, look at the size of that. So I'm going to right click it, convert to smart object, keep it non-destructive, scale it down, bring it down here. And this is just kind of like a little ghostly thing, like it's rising up from the bottom. I thought would be nice. I'm going to mask it like we did before. Click the little hotkey at the bottom there to create a mask. Select my soft round brush and select black and paint black in to conceal. And I can fade this out. I just want it to look like there's a bit of rising smoke. I'm going to Control Z a bunch of that. Maybe I'll just play with the opacity here. I don't want it to be the star of the show. I want it to be kind of like, you know, a little softer than all the smoke we're seeing, but kind of this faded smoke at the bottom, I think is pretty fun. And then from here, you can just play around with the opacity of everything. If you want the text slightly less, you can go in and you can lower the opacity of the text a bit. You know, if you want to calm down on the smoke effect, you think that's too opaque, adjust the opacity. So we have all these layers separated and now you can go in and fine tune it. I don't know if there's time. I got to wrap it up, but I'm going to super speed show you another way to paint smoke that's applicable in different areas. This is a little bonus. It's the magical effect thing. Some of you all may have seen this before, but I'm going to try to super speed this. So if you create, let me see if I can remember this, a screen layer and you fill it in with black, and then you create a normal layer. I'll just call that my paint layer. And then we create a gradient map down here at the bottom. You can click a gradient map adjustment layer. And then we select the paint and the gradient map and clip it to the black screen layer. And then we're going to be painting within the paint layer, the middle one. Now this is kind of quick, but I got to go quick because we're running out of time. This is a little bonus. Let me see if I can do this in time. So you can do the same thing we just did. Paint with white, smudge it. You get different kind of cool smudging effects, right? Do this again. And then if you go into the gradient map and you change it up, it needs to start with black, by the way. If you have gradients that start with black and end with white, it needs to start with black. That's key, but you can get all sorts of different effects, not just smoke. Now, there's no reason to do this with smoke. You can just paint white on a normal layer, but this is a really fun method for getting more than just smoke. Similar effects to smoke, but much more magical. We had a separate daily creative challenge on that I did some time back, but little bonus lesson for you guys. Anyway, I hope these were helpful. Some different methods to kind of get wispy, spooky smoke effects. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I do have to run. I will see you all next time. See you in the Discord. Make sure to join the Discord, post your challenges. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.